Have you ever looked down at your computer keyboard and wondered about the delete key? We use it dozens of times a day. When you type the wrong letter, you want to erase it. When you decide you don't like a file, you want to remove it. So why isn't it called the erase key or the remove key? Erase is what we do to physical mistakes, like rubbing graphite off a piece of paper. Remove is what we do to objects, like taking a plate off a table. But delete? That word holds a dark, permanent, and highly technical secret that predates modern computer screens entirely. Today, we are uncovering the fascinating history of the delete key, tracing its origins back to massive, room-sized machines, and discovering why it means something much more destructive than you might think. Let's explore right here on Humble History. To understand where the delete key comes from, we have to travel back to the era before glowing screens, digital cursors, and backlit keyboards. In the days of the mechanical typewriter, correcting a mistake wasn't as simple as making it magically disappear. If you hit the wrong key, a metal arm slammed an inked ribbon onto the paper, leaving a permanent mark. To fix an error on a typewriter, you used a key called backspace. Just like the name implies, pressing it physically moved the typewriter's carriage back one single space. But it didn't remove the mistake. It just let you type over it, or perhaps strike a line through it. There was no magic eraser. Backspace literally just meant space backward. When the first computers were invented in the mid-20th century, they didn't have monitors, screens, or hard drives. In the 1950s and 60s, data was stored physically using paper tape and punch cards. Imagine massive, room-sized mainframes where programs were fed into the machine on long, continuous strips of thick paper. The computer read data based on the presence or absence of tiny holes punched into that paper. It was a binary system made physical. A hole meant a 1, and no hole meant a 0. But here is the massive problem that early computer engineers faced. Humans make mistakes. Programmers would spend hours typing out code on a machine that would punch these tiny holes into the paper tape. But what happened if a programmer accidentally hit the wrong key and punched the wrong hole in a row of paper tape? You couldn't just erase it. You cannot unpunch a physical hole in a piece of paper. You couldn't glue the tiny circle of paper back in. The data was physically inscribed into the material. If there was a mistake, it seemed like the only option was to throw the entire reel of paper tape away and start over from scratch, wasting hours of meticulous work. So, how do you fix a typo when your code is made of holes? Engineers came up with a brilliant mechanical hack. They programmed the computer's logic to completely ignore any row on the paper tape where every single possible hole was punched out. They created a universal rule for the machine. If you see a row where all the holes are punched, pretend it doesn't exist and move on to the next row. If a programmer made a mistake, they couldn't cover the hole up, but they could punch the rest of them. They would press a special button on their punching machine that drove metal pins through all 7 tracks of that specific row. By punching every single hole, they effectively destroyed that character. To the computer, a row of all holes meant, "Skip this, it's nothing." They wiped it from the machine's memory entirely. Because they were literally obliterating the paper to hide the mistake, words like remove or erase didn't quite capture the violence and permanence of the action. They needed a word that meant total annihilation. They chose delete. The word delete derives from the ancient Latin word delere, which translates to destroy or to wipe out completely. You weren't just rubbing away a pencil mark, you were destroying the data's physical existence so the machine would ignore it. It was a complete obliteration of the character. This mechanical workaround was so ingenious and so universally necessary that it became an official part of computing language. In 1963, the American Standard Code for Information Interchange, better known as ASCII, was published. This was the standard character encoding system that translates text into numbers so computers can understand it. In the ASCII system, the very last character, number 127, was assigned to the delete command. Why number 127? Because in binary code, the number 127 is written as 7 ones. 111111. That perfectly matches the 7 punched holes driven through the paper tape. It was a digital ghost of a physical action. Even as technology rapidly advanced, leaving paper tape behind for magnetic tape, green screen terminals, and eventually the sleek modern laptops we use today, that specific command survived. We no longer punch physical holes in paper, but the architectural DNA of that action remains built into every operating system on the planet. As computer keyboards evolved into what we recognize today, backspace and delete took on 2 very different roles. Backspace kept its old typewriter job. It moves backward, eating the mistakes behind the cursor, just like a typewriter carriage backing up to strike over an error. But delete became something entirely different. On a modern keyboard, delete doesn't move you backward. It sits stationary and pulls the data in front of the cursor forward, destroying it piece by piece. It kept its Latin roots. It is the key of destruction. When you highlight a massive file on your desktop and press delete, you aren't just moving it. You are telling the computer's hard drive that the space that file occupies is now wiped out, completely void, and ready to be written over. It is amazing to think that every time we type an email, write an essay, or code a new piece of software, we are interacting with a linguistic fossil. The language of modern technology is built on the physical limitations of the past. We still scroll through web pages like ancient papyrus. We still save our files using an icon of a floppy disk we haven't touched in 20 years. And we still delete our mistakes. So, the next time you hold down the delete key to wipe out a sentence or highlight a file to send it to the digital trash, take a moment to remember what you are actually doing. You aren't just using a digital eraser. You are invoking a 60-year-old mechanical command to punch out every hole and destroy the data forever. It's a reminder of how the physical ghosts of early technology still haunt the shiny digital keyboards we use every single day. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the humble history. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.